Well, good morning, Algebra 2 students. I hope you had a great day yesterday. This is Lesson 13, and our objective for today is solve a system by substitution, and also to be able to find the area of an isosceles triangle. We're going to go ahead and start off with the latter part of that because I think it's a little bit easier, and we'll do that, and then we'll move back to solving a system by substitution. So first of all, when we're talking about an isosceles triangle, they have what we call a median that goes from the vertex, divides that angle in half, and it goes through the midpoint of this side, meaning it cuts this in half. And the cool thing about this on isosceles triangles is it actually meets at a right angle, which means that I can turn this isosceles triangle into two right triangles, meaning this length over here would be 2, and this length over here would be 2, because that's a midpoint. So if we need to find the area, remember that the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Remember that our base and our height have to be perpendicular to each other. So in this case, the base would be 4, and the height would be this dotted line that we've labeled median. So we're actually going to have to find the height and then plug that number into our equation. So we'll kind of start this. We have area, because that's what we're looking for, is equal to 1/2 the base, which is 4, times the height. And we're still kind of looking for that. So let's fill that in just a second. So let's see if we can look at this triangle right here. We know that this is a right triangle, because this over here meets at a right angle. This length is 2, and this length is 3, and we're looking for this side. I'll call it x for now. Or you know what? Let's call it h, since it's the height of our triangle. So using Pythagorean theorem, we know that 2 squared plus h squared is going to equal to 3 squared. 2 squared is 4, plus h squared is equal to 3 squared, which is 9. Subtracting 4 from both sides, we get h squared is equal to 5, which means h is equal to the square root of 5. So now that we know what h is, we'll plug that in here. And you could find some long decimal approximation of this, but we'll go ahead and leave the exact answer here. The area is going to be 1/2 of 4 is 2. 2 times the square root of 5 is, well, 2 square roots of 5. And then, of course, let's say if these were in inches, then we'd say inches squared because we're talking about the area. Okay, now let's talk about solving a system of equations. When we're talking about solving a system, particularly of linear equations, we're talking about two different lines that are crossing, like this line and this line. Now when we're talking about solving them, we're trying to find one of the infinite limiting points that are on this line that will also be on this line. So really we're looking for that one point right there in the middle that it's on both the lines. But since we're looking for a point, we're actually going to have two answers, kind of, in a sense, an x value and a y value that will make up the coordinates of that point. So when we're solving a system like this one down here, we're actually trying to find an x and a y. So let's go through these 3 steps. If you want to read through my kind of explanation there before we start, pause it and read through it, but let's go ahead and just jump right into this so this video isn't an hour and a half long. So step 1 says solve for a variable. Now I look at these two equations, and I could really solve either one for either variable, but I look at this first one and notice that it already says x equals something. So I'm going to use that one because actually step 1 is already solved for me. X is equal to y plus 7. So now I'm going to move over to step 2. Step 2 is kind of the longest, and I purposely do step 2 to the right of step 1. And you'll kind of see how this works out a little bit later. So just for now, do it like I'm doing it. In step 2, I need to substitute this value. Now, notice real quick, this says x is equal to this, y plus 7. Equals means that this is the same as this. So I used the first equation in step 1, so I need to use the second equation here in step 2. 2x plus 3y is equal to 4. Now notice that I have an x right here and an x right here. Since x is equal to this stuff, I can replace this x on the right, this one, with this stuff. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation using x's other name. So I'm going to have 2 times x plus 3y is equal to 4. So again, I just replace that x with x's other name, y plus 7. And now if you look through this equation, I have y, I have 2 and y and 7 and 3 and y and 4, but notice it's all in one variable. So now I'm going to solve this for y. So at the end of step 2, I should have either x equals a number or y equals a number. In this case, y equals a number. So let's see if we can distribute in here. 2y plus 14 plus 3y is equal to 4. Combine the like terms that are together on the same side, so 2y plus 3y gives me 5y, plus 14 is equal to 4. Subtract that 14. I get 5y is equal to negative 10. When I divide by 5, I get y is equal to negative 2. Now this is not my answer, right? Because I'm looking for an x and a y. This is half my answer. Now let's move on to step 3, which I do right back underneath step 1. And you'll kind of see why. Because at the end of step 1, I have x equals something. So I'm going to say x is equal to y plus 7. But notice I have a y value here, and I have a y value here. Y is equal to negative 2. So I'm going to substitute that in again and say x is equal to negative 2 plus 7. Again, because y and negative 2 are the same thing. So finish solving this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. X is equal to 5 because 7 minus 2 is 5. And here's the other half of my answer. So then my solution, my point that's on both these lines, is going to be 5, because that's the x value, negative 2, because that's the y value. And if you wanted to plug these values in up here, it would make both of these equations balance out, meaning the left would be the same as the right. Left would be the same as the right. Let's do one more of these. Solve by substitution. Solve by substitution. So still the same concept here. Let's go with step 1. Now again, I could pick either equation I want to solve for a variable first, but I'm going to pick this first one because I have a y that has no coefficient on it. So I'm not going to have to divide by, like if I picked this one, if I wanted to solve for y, I have to divide by 3. If I want to solve for x, I have to divide by 2. So I'm going to pick this first one because I'll be able to solve it for y a little bit easier. So I'm going to have 3x minus y is equal to 22. Now I'm going to solve for y by adding y and subtracting 22. And so I'm going to get 3x minus 22 is equal to y, or I'll write it this way, y is equal to 3x minus 22. Since I have y equals something, that's the end of my first step. So moving on to step 2. I'm going to use my other equation. Since I used the first one in the first step, I'm going to use my second one here. I'm going to say 2x plus 3y is equal to negative 11. And notice again, we have y is equal to this. So I'm going to replace that y with the other name of y. So I'm going to say 2x plus 3y is equal to negative 11. And again, that's just y's other name. We substituted y's other name in for that. Going through and solving that, we're going to have 2x plus, distributing that in, 9x minus 66 is equal to negative 11. Combining like terms is going to give me 11x minus 66 is equal to negative 11. Add 66. I'm going to have 11x is equal to 55 divided by 11. And x is equal to 5. Again, just half my answer. So move on to step 3. And I'm going to use this equation from the end of step 1. Y is equal to 3x minus 22. And I'm going to substitute in for x's other name here. So it's going to be y is equal to 3 times x, which we know is 5, minus 22. So that's going to be y is equal to 15 minus 22. So y is equal to negative 7. That's my other half of my answer. That means my final answer is going to be x, which is 5, comma y, which is negative 7. And again, if you want to check your work, just plug 5 in right there for x, negative 7 in for y, and solve. You should get 22. And if you plugged 5 in here and negative 7 in here, you should get negative 11. And that'd be a good way to check to make sure that you got your answers correctly. All right, your homework is going to be a worksheet. There is pick 4 more of your choice. So if you want to get a head start on it, you can pick 4, or hopefully you already picked up the worksheet as you came into the classroom. Good luck, and I know y'all going to do awesome.